जमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, भक्तिमयी तुलसी देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare। वंचा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री गुरु वृंद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रौतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तना हृदयन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। So the two verses we will read that and then we'll continue with Srila Prabhupada Pranati, and then I will present this talk requesting blessings from the Vaishnavas, our Vaishnavacharyas. Shri Shukuvacha एवमेतत् पुरा पृष्टो मैत्रेयो भगवान् किल शत्रावणं प्रविष्टेन त्यक्त्वा स्वगृहं वृद्धिमत्। श्रीशुकुवाच एवमेतत् पुरा पृष्टो मैत्रेयो भगवान् किल शत्रावणं प्रविष्टेन त्यक्त्वा स्वगृहं वृद्धिमत्। श्रीशुकुवाच एवमेतत् पुरा पृष्टो मैत्रेयो भगवान् किल शत्रावणं प्रविष्टेन त्यक्त्वा स्वगृहं वृद्धिमत्।
श्रीशुक उवाच एवमेतत्पुरा पृष्टो मैत्रेयो भगवान् किल शत्रवनं प्रविष्टेन त्यक्त्वा स्वगृहं वृद्धिमत्। हरे कृष्ण।
श्रीशुक उवाच श्रीशुक उवाच एवम् पुरा पृष्टो मैत्रेयो भगवन् किल शत्रावनं प्रविष्टेन त्यक्त्वा स्वगृहं विधिमात्. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण। श्रीशुकोवाच एवम् एतत् पुरा पृष्टो मैत्रेयो भगवान् किल कृत्वा वनं प्रविष्टेन त्यक्त्वा स्वगृहं वृद्धिमत्। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। श्रीशुक उवाच एवमेतत्पुरा पृष्टो मैत्रेयो भगवान् किल शत्रावनं प्रविष्टेन त्यक्त्वा स्वगृहं रुद्मात्।
Prabhuji, should we scroll to the next verse? Okay, synonyms. Sri Shukuvacha, Sri Shukdev Goswami said, Evam, thus, Etat, this, Pura, formerly, Prashta, being asked, Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya, Bhagavan, his grace, Kila, certainly, Kshatra, by Vidur, Vanam, forest, Pravishtena, entering, Tyaktva, renouncing, Swagraham, own house, Riddhimat, prosperous. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shukdev Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidur, the great devotee, asked this question of His Grace Maitreya Rishi. So we will read the second verse now, and then after that I'll offer Srila Prabhupada Pranati. Yadva ayam mantra kridvo Bhagavan Akhileshvara Pauravendra griham hitva Praviveshatmashat kritam Yadva ayam mantra kridvo Bhagavan Akhileshvara Pauravendra griham hitva Praviveshatmashat kritam Praviveshatmashat kritam Yadva ayam mantra kridavo Bhagavan Akhileshvara Pauravendra griham hitva Praviveshatmashat kritam. Recording in progress. Hare Krishna. So let's move to the synonyms. Prabhuji, if you can scroll back. Okay. Yat, the house. Vai, what else is there to say? I am Sri Krishna, Mantrakrit, minister. Va, you people. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Akhila Ishvara, the Lord of everything. Pauravendra, Duryodhan. Griham, house. Hitva, giving up. Pravivesha, entered. Atmasat, identify with self. Kritam, so expected. Translation, Jai Srila Prabhupada. What else is there to say about the residential house of the Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take care of Duryodhan's house. Purport. Jai Srila Prabhupada. According to Gaudiya Achintya Bhed Tattva philosophy, anything which satisfies the senses of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is also Sri Krishna. For example, Sri Vrindavan Dham is non-different from Sri Krishna, Tad Dham Vrindavan, because at Vrindavan the Lord enjoys the transcendental bliss of his internal potency. Similarly, the house of Pandavas was also the source of transcendental bliss for the Lord. It is mentioned here that the Lord identified the house with his own self. Thus, the house of Pandavas was as good as Vrindavan, and Vidur should not have given up that place of transcendental bliss. Therefore, the reason for his quitting the house was not exactly family misunderstanding. Rather, Vidur took the opportunity to meet Rishi Maitreya and discuss transcendental knowledge. For a saintly person like Vidur, any disturbance due to worldly affairs is insignificant. Such disturbances, however, are sometimes favorable for higher realization. And therefore, Vidura took advantage of a family misunderstanding in order to meet Maitreya Rishi. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. Hare Krishna. So, in Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, we just finished reading up to Canto 2. So, if we reflect back, we are reminded that in chapter 10 of Canto 2, which was the last chapter we were doing Shravan of, the title of the chapter is Bhagavatam is answer to all questions. Every question about life, dharma, the divine purpose, it finds its solution in the teachings of that chapter. And Canto 2 also talks about, it briefly mentions meeting of Vidur with Maitreya Rishi, which is set in the context of the questions of Parikshit Maharaj to Shukdev Goswami. Now, for those of you who don't have the opportunity to do Shravan and Kirtan of Srimad Bhagavatam regularly or every day, this is for their benefit. We are reading this Srimad Bhagavatam as a conversation between, on one level, it is a conversation between Maharaj Parikshit. He is cursed to die in 7 days. So he has approached Shukdev Goswami, who is narrating Lord's pastimes, this Bhagavad Katha to him. And on another level, this Bhagavatam is being discussed between sages at Naim So Shaunak Rishi, as a spokesperson, he's presenting inquiries to Suta Goswami. And then, what is this Srimad Bhagavatam having? This is having all kind of glories and name, form, activities and pastimes of the Lord. And there are different personalities. They are in conversation. And one such conversation is being referred here, conversation between Vidur and Maitreya. So, this meeting between Vidur and Maitreya highlights how a sincere seeker turns to a realized sage to understand deeper truth of life. Who is this sincere seeker here in question, in this reference, in this context? He is Vidur. And he is referred to as Mahatma Vidur also. He is a greatly learned sage. And then he also turns to realized sage. Who is that? That's Maitreya Rishi. So now in Canto 3, what happens? Canto 3 flows naturally from this foundation. And in Canto 2, we read a lot about cosmic manifestation, cosmic vision, and we developed more understanding about divine principles. And Vidur now asks Maitreya about a lot of things. We'll further read in Canto 3 about human affairs, virtues, and Krishna's intimate guidance in Pandava's household. So we learn about universal truths from Canto 2. They are reflected in how they are reflected in our everyday life, and how even, the day-to-day disturbances we experience or any challenges, they can become opportunities for higher realization. Okay. And since Vidur has been traveling, I will talk from the perspective of metaphorically, how we can travel to pilgrimages or to turn internally. So now, the first two verses, they reveal timeless wisdom. King Vidur, who was a minister in Kuru dynasty, he asks questions from who? From Maitreya Rishi. And who is this Maitreya Rishi? He's a great sage and friend of Vyasdev. Who is Vyasdev? Vyasdev is father of Shukdev Goswami. And this whole chapter is titled Questions by Vidur. What does it show us? As we will read, it reveals the curiosity of Vidur's heart about Lord's grace in different areas of life and what it implies for us, Lord's grace in human life. And even for people with no proper background, the story offers beautiful lessons. This pastime offers beautiful lessons. Especially how to respond to life's disturbances. As we will read, actually, in the second verse, I think, did I read the purport of second verse? Well, we will visit again, but how to respond to life's disturbances with insight, humility, and higher purpose. So, Prabhuji, can you share on the screen the second verse again? I think
Okay.
I may not
Yeah,
have read the purport of the second verse.
actually, if you don't mind, you did read it.
I read it? Okay.
Yeah, you read
And
the whole
somehow
thing.
I felt I did not read it.
It happens to me too, so I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how it could be like, yeah.
Okay,
But
no
you read the
problem.
whole
No problem.
Okay. You want to steal?
Uh, if you can just share on the screen, that would be nice. If you can, because I will refer to few lines from
Oh, okay, okay.
purport
So
of
I'll leave it on the screen then.
yeah.
I can share, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. All right. So Mataji, dear Krishna, you just heard his voice. He's taking over. I have to run to the temple to do some service and
Okay, no
emergencies.
problem. No problem.
So he'll handle it. He's hosting now.
Okay.
So 312.
So so can you first display the first verse little bit? I
Yes,
will
ma'am.
just talk briefly about it
Yeah.
because Vidur is traveling. So first verse says, Shukdev Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering forest, King Vidur, the great devotee, asked this question of His Grace Maitreya Rishi. So one thing is clear to everyone. This is about, we are reading about Vidur, that he stayed in the Kuru family. He offered his services there as a minister, and then some misunderstandings happened. I will not go through the whole narration of Mahabharata, but some idea we are already getting. And then he renounced his prosperous home, and he is asking these questions to Maitreya Rishi. So very briefly, I will touch on that. But before that, let me ask you all, why do people travel? Few hands, at least 3 responses. Why do people travel? Please, quick, let's, so that we have enough time for what I want to present today. Any of you?
For
Yes.
vacation.
For vacation. What else? What is another reason? Sarvang, Sundar, Damodar, Prabhu?
To visit relatives.
Okay, for vacation, to visit relatives. What else? Shane?
To take a break from their day to day.
Okay,
Kinda
to have some novelty in life, something to look forward to. Okay, that's enough. That's good. So some travel for pleasure, some travel for relief, some travel for, work related, some travel because they're restless. And a few travel because consciously or unconsciously they are looking for something. missing in their life. They're searching for some kind of truth. But there is a great difference between moving the body and moving our heart. That is why Vidur's journey is spiritually powerful. When we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn to understand what we are reading from the lenses of how Vaishnavacharyas explain it. So the Bhagavatam does not present him as a tourist, nor as a wounded political exile. He was humiliated by Duryodhan, right? It may seem it was like he was offended, wounded, and it was like a wounded political exile, merely reacting to family insult. And so this opening verse of this chapter says that after leaving his prosperous home and entering the forest, Vidur asked this question of Maitreya Rishi. Now, as we go through subsequent chapters, when I was preparing for this verse, for this presentation, I looked up like where else, what is the background, and we will see in fourth and fifth chapter of third canto. Further, the background is mentioned, why Vidur left, who he met, how he met Maitreya. That is described beautifully in details. So Vidur asked this question to Maitreya Rishi. So the emphasis is not merely that he left home. The emphasis is that he left and then he inquired. So message for all of us is this is where spiritual life becomes alive. So the real subject of this class is not travel itself. It is not geography. It is not even historical sequence. But the real subject is how does a sincere person move from disturbance to transcendental inquiry? And this is Vidur. Because we enter the philosophy, so let us just very briefly visit the chronology, and then we will further go into the deeper purport. So Vidur was in Kuru assembly amidst political blindness, moral compromise, family tension. And later in this canto, we will learn that his departing and wandering in the pilgrimage sites. Now at Prabhas, he heard of the destruction of his kinsmen. So he was grieving silently at the outcome of their mutual conflict. What is this Prabhas? There are few locations in India. They are categorized as Prabhas, and Haridwar is one of them. That is where, so he meets Uddhav at Vrindavan, and then when Uddhav gives him direction, because Vidur, he desired to hear transcendental knowledge from him. But what did Uddhav do? Uddhav directed him to Maitreya, saying that Maitreya was nearby. Maitreya was at Haridwar. And Maitreya had been directly instructed by the Lord Krishna when Krishna was preparing to leave this world. So after spending the night with Vidur in Krishna, doing Shravana of Krishna Katha on the bank of Yamuna, and that is at Indraprasth, okay, around Delhi area, which is current Delhi area. So that is bank of Yamuna. And then Uddhav departed. Then Vidur came to the source of celestial Ganges. This is mentioned in chapter 5. Details are there. Vidur came to the source of celestial Ganges, Haridwar, where Maitreya was seated. And there he inquired from him. So this is the chronology, and due to time limitation, this much is good enough, I believe, for everyone. So now, in Bhagavatam, we are reading that Bhagavatam actually repeatedly advances through how inquiries should be made. This is sacred questioning. Maharaj Parikshit asked Shukdev Goswami, I earlier mentioned that, and Shaunaka Rishi and the sages at Naimsharanya, they asked Suta Goswami. Now here Vidur asks Maitreya, and in fact, immediately after introducing Vidura's inquiry, Srimad Bhagavatam is narrating that King Parikshit is asking, where and when did the meeting and discussion between Vidur and Maitreya take place? Now, few verses towards end of chapter 10 of Canto 2 also had a mention of that. So this is instructive for Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is not built on passive, just spectatorship. It is built on eager, submissive, spiritually urgent questions. Okay? So let us all think for a moment. When was the last time? You can think like this. When was the last time I asked a spiritual question that was not casual? So not a question to show learning, not a question to win discussion, not a question because I was bored, but a question that rose from heart because I could feel without this, my life will remain shallow. So this is mood of Vidur. And because Vidur is not asking from comfort, he is not asking from curiosity, he is asking after passing through a world that has already shown him the limits of royal life, diplomacy, politics, material prestige. So these two verses, they may look very simple with not much in there, but they are deep. So Vidur left a prosperous home. He entered forest and he asked questions. Now, from Bhagavad Gita, there is a very beautiful, important verse in chapter 4. It is a supporting verse for this whole discussion. Krishna does not say, figure out everything by yourself. What does he say? Approach a spiritual master. Tad viddhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya. Inquire submissively and render service. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge because they have seen the truth. Excuse me. So knowledge in spiritual life is not merely collected. It is received and it descends. It's in disciplic succession. It descends through humility, service, and inquiry. This is where the first major lesson of Vidur's journey begins. And this inquiry, such inquiries, they can become a turning point. It may not be perfection right then and there, but they become a turning point. So many people leave situations, life happens. There is flight and fight mode, some deal with it, some quit. And very few leave in a way that leads to realization. Some leave a job, but carry same ego. Some leave city, but carry the same emptiness. Some leave a relationship, but carry the same selfishness. While even some leave the worldly life externally, but internally, what is there? There may be resentment, pride, comparison, distraction. So we are talking about Vidur here. Vidur's greatness is not merely that he walked out. His greatness is that he turned his disturbance into a doorway for transcendental hearing. And that is not my speculation. The purport to the second verse we read today, it says explicitly, it says that Vidur did not leave only because of family misunderstanding. Prabhuji, can you scroll and show that purport? So rather, he took the opportunity to meet Maitreya Rishi and discuss the transcendental knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada says that for a saintly person like Vidur, worldly disturbance is insignificant, but such disturbance can become favorable for higher realization. Now, how is that? We are going to take a look into that. And but this one statement is extremely important for practical life. So one may say, this difficulty came to my life. Vidur teaches us to ask a better question. How can this difficulty become favorable for my purification? And then there is, once someone meditates on it like that, there is a transformative shift. There is change of heart. It means a devotee does not merely ask, why did this happen to me? A devotee learns to ask, how can this bring me closer to Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, Krishna? And this kind of inquiry or questioning changes the whole direction of life. And if that question is not learned, then even suffering can remain material. And if that question is a learned question, then even a disturbance can become sacred. So now I want to connect this to how we practice Krishna consciousness, because otherwise we may admire Vidur from a distance and never let his example examine us. So today, most people, they go to different kind of gatherings. We travel, we attend temple festivals or temple programs, we visit holy places. But let us examine what is the consciousness with which we gather. Sometimes in religious settings, the center, what is the center? It quietly shifts. People come for overall experience, but not for absorption. They come for association, but not for transformation. They come for prasadam, but not for gratitude. They come for darshan, but then quickly descend to gossip, social calculations. There is a lot of photography, self-presentation, and worldly talk. And then what happens? The tragedy is that externally the setting is spiritual, but internally the consciousness remains material. And that is why these verses are so powerful. So Srimad Bhagavatam is quietly training us. We are receiving this training through Shravan and Kirtan, how to distinguish between external religious practices and internal spiritual awakening. And Vidur did not become glorious because he was well-traveled. He became glorious because he became a serious hearer. And this is the case of Parikshit Maharaj also. And this is reinforced beautifully. We read in, if some of you may remember, in previous cantos, Canto 1, I have the reference, Canto 1, chapter 5, verse 10 and 11. Narad is teaching Vyasadev. Narad says that the words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, they are like places of pilgrimage for crows. And saintly persons who are like swans, they do not delight there. But the literature full of Lord's Nam, Roop, Gun, Leela, which is name, fame, form, and pastimes, they create a revolution in the impious lives of this misdirected civilization, and such glorification is heard, sung, and accepted by purified persons. So Prabhupada's purport sharpens this image further, that crows, they take pleasure in garbage, it's called refuse, whereas swans, they do not. So that image, if we can understand, it should shake us, because for us, what it directly, practically gives us a snapshot of is not every gathering in a religious place is spiritually elevated. Not every conversation in a holy place is holy. Not every festival or mood is transcendental. A place becomes crow-like when the center is gossip, criticism, social display, sense gratification. And a place becomes swan-like when the center is Krishna Katha, genuine inquiry, remembrance, service, humility, glorification of the Lord. So if devotees, they gather, and the main excitement is Who said what? Who wore what? Who got recognition? Who offended who? On the appreciation night, who all was acknowledged? What have you been eating? Which photo shall we post? Then, however devotional the external packaging may look, the consciousness has slipped downward. But if even a small group gathers in one room and opens Srimad Bhagavatam, asks on, there are inquiries and questions, honest questioning, sharing of realization, prasadam, honoring of prasadam with gratitude, and one remembers Krishna and his devotees, then spiritually that room is of a higher order. And that is why these verses matter. Vidur is teaching us not how to become spiritually decorated, but how to become spiritually sincere. And this brings us to another important meditation. If sacred life is centered on Shravanam, hearing, then what does real devotee association look like? So, nectar of instruction, Srila Prabhupada's commentary on Updeshamrit by Srila Rupa Goswami, the text 4 describes 6 loving exchanges among the devotees. Dadati pratigranati, the famous verse. It talks about giving gifts, accepting gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting and offering prasadam. And in its purport, Srila Prabhupada says that devotional society exists to facilitate these loving exchanges. And this is extremely relevant to the whole spirit of Vidur's journey. Why are we saying Vidur's journey? Because Vidur is traveling. He went on pilgrimage. So genuine association is not mere physical nearness. It is not like social cluster. It is loving exchange centered on spiritual nourishment. So what does real association look like or feel like? We constantly talk about sadhu sangha, right? So real association, sadhu sangha is when Krishna becomes the subject. Sadhu sangha is when devotee help, they help one another, each other to come nearer to remembrance of the Lord. Sadhu sangha is when prasadam is not just consumption, but affection. And sadhu sangha is when questions are asked in honesty and answered in service. So sadhu sangha is when someone can reveal the pain, confusion, struggle of the heart and receive, what do they receive? Not gossip, not judgment, but spiritual guidance. This is sadhu sangha, the real association. And how powerful is even a little bit of it? So there is a famous Chaitanya Charitamrita verse. Anybody remembers the verse on sadhu sangha, a moment's association?
Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koe, Love. I think I mixed it.
Yes, you
Sadhu.
got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Lava mantra sadhu sangha.
Yeah, Love Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sat Siddhi.
Sarva Siddhi. Yeah. So this verse explains that even a moment's association with the pure devotee can award all perfection. Even one moment. That means that genuine association is not measured merely in hours. How is it measured? It is measured in spiritual intensity. One moment of real sadhu sangha can transform the life. It can redirect a life. So if someone asks what is the first great lesson from Vidur before we can even go deeper into verse 2, that is spiritual life matures when suffering becomes inquiry and inquiry becomes association. And for that, you have to turn to Krishna. Instead of turning to your phone, discussing your problems with your, whoever you think are your friends or relatives, or resorting to some comforting means, that is what is meant. Turn to Krishna. And this is Vidur. So he was humiliated. He left royal luxuries. He did not collapse into complaint. He did not merely wander and roam to vacationing. He did not seek distraction. He seeks a saintly person, and he presents his inquiries. And that is why his journey matters. That is why this section of Srimad Bhagavatam matters. And that is why each of us has to ask very honestly, in my own life, when I'm disturbed, where do I go? To the noise, to the entertainment, to the social media, to emotional reaction, to endless worldly talk? Or do I move as Vidur moved towards hearing? So by moving, it doesn't necessarily mean you booked a pilgrimage immediately and left everyone at home, abandoning them, leave me alone, give me space, I need my space, causing further suffering to others. No. Here we should understand Vidur moved towards hearing. That is where, we can find a lot of wisdom. Because if this first movement is not understood, rest of the talk will remain ornamental. But if we understand this first movement, then everything will open up for us. That why Krishna treated Pandava's home as his own, right? Second verse talks about that. Why a place centered on his pleasure becomes Vrindavan-like. Why a holy association is superior to religious formality. And why temple life without Krishna Katha can quietly become materialized. So Vidur's greatness was not that he left a palace. His greatness was that he turned worldly disturbance into sacred inquiry. So now, let's come to the second verse. Okay? Vidur has left. He has traveled. He has reached saintly association. He is ready to inquire. But before Srimad Bhagavatam allows this discussion to begin, it is showing something very striking. It reminds us of the house of the Pandavas. Let's take a look at the second verse. Here, the translation says, what else is there to say about residential house of Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. Now, this is Maitri Rishi saying. He's saying, Lord Krishna used to enter that house. Whose house? Pandava's house, as if it were his own, and he did not take care of Duryodhan's house. So, Srila Prabhupada is identifying in purport something extremely powerful. He mentions Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. He says, according to Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, anything that satisfies Krishna is non-different from Krishna. And therefore, the house of Pandavas was as good as Vrindavan. So it may sound little poetic, like even exaggeration, but it is not. So a place is not spiritual because it is labeled spiritual. A place becomes spiritual because Krishna is pleased there. So let me ask you all something. Have you ever reflected on if Krishna is comfortable in my home? So not that I have in my big home, I have a separate room for the deities, I have a temple room. Or not that do I have beautifully framed Krishna art, or do I do deity worship every day, do I light incense and all that. But think about, is he comfortable there? Okay? And then let's think of Pandavas and Kauravas. Okay? So they lived in same city, same kingdom, same culture, but Krishna chose one house and he ignored the other. Why? Because one was built around devotion and the other around ego and control. So now, when we read from Mahabharata, many of you already are familiar or have heard whole of Mahabharata at some time. So let's bring that into context. And so let's think of today, we also have homes, beautiful homes. Some of us have comfortable homes, well decorated homes. But what is happening inside? Is there endless scrolling, anxiety, distraction, silence towards Krishna? So we may feel extremely rich with how we are doing in life, but internally we may be feeling void in many ways. So now let's talk about temples. People come, they take darshan. And then what becomes central many times? Social circles, conversations, subtle politics, comparisons, who said what, who did what. And slowly, in this way, Krishna moves from center to the background. So a temple is not defined by its deities alone, it is defined by its consciousness. We can stand in front of deity and still we can be materially absorbed. We can sit in a small room, yet we could be in Vrindavan. So this second verse of Canto 3, Chapter 1, it's not describing something like an architecture. It's describing the consciousness. So now let us see it from the context of pilgrimage, because Vidur is traveling, he's on pilgrimage. But Srimad Bhagavatam is not glorifying travel. It is glorifying what he sought through the travel. So Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us holy places are truly holy because of devotees, because of sadhus, because of how exchanges happen with the sadhus. And pure devotees can turn any place into tirth. So mere water is not sacred by itself, mere stone is not worshipable by itself, but saintly persons purify it instantly. So what does it mean practically for us? Pilgrimage is not about taking bath there or seeing temple or taking photos or doing vlogs and all that and checking out locations. But pilgrimage is about hearing Shravan Kirtan, hear Sadhu Sangha, inquiry, Vishnu Smaranam, remembrance. So, so having observed all this, that pilgrimage has become like more like a tourism, photography. I visited here, I posted this, I experienced that. Necessarily, people may not be traveling to purify the heart. Sometimes that's not their intention, actually. Anyway, if they are, really going with the intention of not with the spiritual motives or purification. They may be traveling to present an image. So, for us, right now, what I am sharing, our Vaishnavacharyas are explaining pilgrimage has shifted from transformation to presentation. Let's talk about festival time. So, festivals come. And what becomes central in this gathering during festivals? Eating, meeting, talking, clicking pictures. I mentioned earlier that Krishna becomes an event backdrop. So Vidur did not travel to collect experiences. He traveled until he reached the right association. And then earlier I mentioned crow and swan consciousness. So Narad gives us the final lens to understand everything in Canto 1. That, it's mentioned, words that do not glorify the Lord are like places of pilgrimage for crows. Let me quickly ask, what is a crow? Like, what does a crow do? Crow, it goes to garbage sites. It creates a lot of noise. It creates a lot of disturbance. And what does a swan do? A swan goes to clean water, purity, and essence. This is what we are understanding better from the scriptures, Shastra Chakshu. From our childhood, we have seen crows and swans, right? We did not meditate so deeply on their activities. But, when we read from scriptures, we get a better understanding. So, what is crow consciousness then? Crow consciousness is based on gossip, criticism, and worldly talk. And swan consciousness, it develops taste for Krishna Katha. It helps understand how to present inquiries. And then there are realizations. So we can sit in temple and still be with the crows. But we can also sit in simple room and be among the swans. What is the difference? The difference is what are the activities and consciousness. So some powerful messages for us are: leaving or quitting is not enough. Traveling is not enough. Going to social gatherings is not enough. And temple attendance is not enough. What truly matters is what is the center of my consciousness. And that brings us to the next stage. If association is so important, then what does real association actually look like? What does sadhu sangha look like? And that is where Vidur's journey becomes very practical for us. So I earlier mentioned about 6 loving exchanges, right? So now we are going to discuss something really important. We understand leaving is not enough, traveling is not enough, gathering is not enough, temple attendance is not enough. What matters is what is happening in the heart and what's happening in sadhu sangha or the association we are going to. So now I ask, what does real association look like? And Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami in Updeshamrit and commentary on that by Srila Prabhupada, which is Nectar of Instruction, in text 4, it describes the 6 loving exchanges among the devotees. What are the 6 loving exchanges? Anyone? You can speak just one point each. I just want some interaction and want to ensure everybody's awake and listening. What are the 6 loving exchanges, if you know?
Giving and receiving gifts.
Yes, giving and receiving gifts. What else? Anyone else?
To share in confidentiality with each other your
Confidentiality.
questions or your discussions in
Yes.
confidence.
Yes, very good. And what is the third? The fifth
Inquir-
instance? Yes.
inquiring about their well-being.
Yeah. So inquiring confidentially, revealing one's mind, they are together. Giving gifts and accepting gifts were already mentioned. And then accepting prasadam and offering prasadam. Okay. So these are the 6 loving exchanges amongst the devotees. So now, this is not a social behavior, it is a spiritual infrastructure, which is available as a guidance in Nectar of Instruction. So when one devotee reveals the heart, another one responds with Krishna conscious support. And that is sadhu sangha. When one devotee asks, I'm struggling, what should I do? And another one does not gossip, encouraging prajalpa. They don't give opinion, but they do active listening and they give a shastra based direction if they are comfortable or knowledgeable about it. And that is sadhu sangha. And in contrast with how things happen today, revealing the mind often becomes venting, complaining, validating emotions, but not necessarily turning towards Krishna. So, as an example, a materialistic exchange might be, I understand you, whereas a spiritual exchange might be, I want to help you move closer to Krishna. What I mean is, materialistically, someone may just listen to all the gossip and actually add fuel to fire and just stop at, I understand you, whereas spiritual exchange may further go past, I understand you, and offer help in moving someone look at it from Shastra Chakshu by moving closer to Krishna or turning to Krishna, identifying it may be God's will, supreme will of the God, and not to react, but to respond suitably, to address it suitably, whatever that situation is. Let's take the example of prasadam. So let's think about that. Even prasadam, is it consumption based or connection? It helps us connect to Krishna. So if prasadam increases gratitude and remembrance, it is spiritualized. If prasadam increases indulgence and distraction, it is in materialistic consciousness. So after some kind of experience and interaction or exchange with the even devotees, let us reflect on, when I associate, do I leave lighter or more entangled? Do I leave remembering Krishna or remembering people and what they did to me? So Rupa Goswami further goes to text 5. There is next verse in Nectar of Instruction. And those of you who are not familiar with Updeshamrit or Nectar of Instruction, you can go to vedabase.com and there all Srila Prabhupada's books are listed. Select Nectar of Instruction. Go to text 5. So Rupa Goswami explains that association is not blind. Different devotees are to be respected, befriended, or served according to their realizations. And why it matters here, why I'm talking about it here, because Vidur, he's traveling and his journey shows association is not random, it is intentional. Not every association leads upward. One must learn where to inquire, from whom to hear, and how to receive. Okay? So now, Vidur approached Uddhav. This is additional information I'm providing. It will be helpful for some. Excuse me. So, Canto 3, Chapter 4 will talk about this. Vidur approached Uddhav and requested instruction. It is clearly stated there. And then Uddhav directed Vidur to Maitreya. Chapter 5 talks about that. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains Uddhav did not want to violate Maryada. Vidur was senior in age. Maitreya was present. Maitreya was fully qualified and Maitreya had received direct instruction from the Lord. So this is the principle. Real knowledge flows through humility, proper channel, qualification, and etiquette. So spiritual life is not about hearing from whoever we prefer, but it is about hearing from whom Krishna arranges. And Vidur reaches Maitreya, where in Haridwar on the banks of Ganges, and he begins his inquiry. So this is the setting of this chapter. Not everything may be clear in this chapter, but just that's the way Bhagavatam is. Some background information appears later. So I thought it was relevant. I should mention here. It will help. It helped me. So now let's put everything together. Vidur's transformation did not happen when he left home, when he traveled, when he visited holy places. When did it happen? When he met the right person, when he asked the right questions, and when he heard in the right mood and consciousness. So we talked about Chaitanya Charitamrit verse, even a moment of sadhu sangha can avoid all perfection. So it doesn't happen in years. It doesn't have to be in positions. It doesn't have to be about recognition, but a moment. Why? Because in that moment, the whole direction changes. So what do we learn from Vidura's inquiry and this small section we have read today? He teaches us, do not be disturbed by the disturbances. Do not settle for surface level spirituality. Do not reduce temple life to social life. Do not reduce pilgrimage to tourism. Do not reduce association to proximity. Instead, What is he doing? He's inquiring. So instead, we should seek real inquiry, real hearing, real association, and so that real transformation may happen in our hearts. So next time we gather around the devotees, let us just be on track with who or what is the center of our gathering. When I go to temple, what do I carry back? When I travel, during my travels, what am I seeking? Because pilgrimage begins when the feet move, but it is perfected when the heart begins to inquire. So some of the precious lessons in this pastime are, let us not measure our spiritual life by how many temples we've visited, how many festivals we have attended, how many photos we have captured, but let us measure by how deeply we have done Shravanam of Krishna Katha, how sincerely we have inquired, and how much our heart moved towards Krishna. Okay. And then there is a very beautiful section here in the purport. Let's go to that. It says the house of Pandavas was as good as Vrindavan, and Vidur should not have given up place of transcendental bliss. Therefore, the reason for his quitting the house was not exactly family misunderstanding. Rather, Vidur took the opportunity to meet Rishi Maitreya and discuss transcendental knowledge. For a saintly person like Vidur, any disturbance due to worldly affairs is insignificant. Such disturbances, however, are sometimes favorable for higher realization, and therefore Vidur took advantage of a family misunderstanding in order to meet Maitreya Rishi. So, Vidur, despite living in Pandava's home, a place described as good as, Pandavas, I'm sorry, Kauravas, he was living with the Kurus, right? So, but Pandava's home was as good as Vrindavan. Okay, it's mentioned here. So on the surface, one might think this was due to family misunderstanding, but the purport explains Vidur's departure was not motivated by anger or conflict. Rather, he saw opportunity to meet Maitreya Rishi and discuss transcendental knowledge, which could not have been gained while staying immersed in royal life. And for a saintly person like Vidur, worldly disturbances, however inconvenient, are insignificant. Sometimes they can become catalysts for higher realization. So, how many of you here, just raise hand, you have experienced adversities in life, like really mind-boggling and disturbing adversities in life? I just want to have a feel if there is anyone here who doesn't have any life disturbances. So I really appreciate honesty. If you can raise your hand, it is not that we will judge you, but it will help us honestly reflect and apply the wisdom from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, we have 4 hands already. Rest of you are cool with your life and everything perfect. Happy life for everyone. Well, I had my share, I know. Well, I know some of you might be shy or just a little bit away or distracted right now. So I understand. Thank you, Prabhus, those who raised hand. So the key teachings here is, even to be able to find such sadhu sangha is Guru and Krishna's special mercy. It's a divine favor. And Krishna's attention rests on those who act righteously, like Pandavas. That's what we learn from their life. And Duryodhan, who was egoistic and envious, did not attract Krishna's grace. That's why Krishna he never stayed with him. And so what we are learning that opportunities are hidden in adversities. Vidur's choice shows that Vidur's choice that he left shows that even a challenging or uncomfortable situation can become doorway to wisdom. And life may disturb us, but saints or sadhus, they help us transform those disturbances into moments of growth. Now, these lessons may not immediately happen to us. It may be after the fact. It happens to me for the longest time after the fact. But it happens, and I'm grateful for that. So, spiritual aspirants or seekers or devotees, they prioritize knowledge over comfort. So, the palace or royal life was blissful, but Vidur valued transcendental knowledge. These lines, which we read from the purport, they're telling us he valued transcendental knowledge higher than physical comfort or social stability. And this is a universal principle. We are seeing what we pursue, material comfort or wisdom, it determines the quality of our life in coming days and the spiritual advancement. And that is why first two principles of surrender, what are they about? We have 6 principles of surrender. And what are the first 2 principles? Anyone remembers? Can you speak loudly if you remember? Sharanagati principles, 6 of them. What are the first 2? First 2 are about making choices, right? Choosing everything which is favorable for
to Krishna.
Spiritual advancement, and rejecting everything which is not favorable. So we have to make choices that will determine quality of our Krishna conscious life and spiritual advancement. So Vidur's example shows that disturbances are neutral. So earlier part of my talk today, I focused on traveling and finding sadhu sangha and in what consciousness we should do shravan and kirtan and all that. Now I'm talking about more towards last 5 minutes. I'm going to talk about adversities or disturbances in our life. So they will happen, but what matters is how we respond. Life will inevitably throw misunderstandings. There will be conflicts. There is a whole department on conflict resolution and mediation, even within ISKCON. But so life will inevitably throw misunderstandings, conflicts, and losses our way. We have lived for millions of lives. The karmas, they need to complete their cycle. There will be sinful reactions. So that's how these misunderstandings, conflicts, or losses we may experience all along. So instead of resisting, we can see these moments as opportunities for turning to Krishna, for learning, for reflection, and for growth. And that's what we are doing right now. In these morning Srimad Bhagavatam talks, we are reflecting on that. And the more we do that, the more we will develop the habit, or we will become spontaneous with it. And so, just as Vidur used a family misunderstanding to meet Maitreya Rishi, we too can transform obstacles into steps towards higher understanding. What will that give us? Peace and even service, more service in Krishna consciousness. So our takeaway should be, when life presents challenges, we should ask, what higher purpose does this serve? How can I turn this situation into a blessing? How can I develop more gratitude for this villain in my life, or who brought me certain adverse situation? Or if someone is more elevated, they can think of what is the solution? How can I pacify and serve in this situation? So it is an opportunity to evolve, spiritually evolve. So these 2 verses, they give us insight. They introduce us to Vidur, a seeker who asks such beautiful, wonderful, profound questions of Maitreya Rishi. And even a place as blissful as Pandava's home could not, a place as blissful as Kuru's, Duryodhan's home, could not distract him from pursuing true knowledge. He was in palace The even royal pleasures or comforts could not distract him. And life's disturbances, when viewed with awareness, they become catalysts for spiritual growth. And Krishna's grace, it favors virtue and humility. And so we should understand challenges are opportunities to realize higher truth. So before we conclude this Srimad Bhagavatam talk, I would like to remind everyone, in every difficulty, let us pause, reflect, and seek the wisdom hidden within the experience. All right? So because even in situations that seem uncomfortable or unfair, we can discover lessons. We can develop patience. We constantly talk about Tranadapi Sunichena, Tarurapi Sahishuna, tolerance, humility, right? So we should develop that patience, tolerance, and grow closer to higher truths of life. Every disturbance can be a hidden blessing if we respond with awareness and devotion. Hare Krishna. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad Pad ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vind ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All bless to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. I think, I don't know how to express, but this is one of the most important class I might have ever heard, because this is so much, all the points are so much important to us, not as an individual practitioner, but also somebody who is part of a congregation. How should we take Sangha in the congregation? For devotees, if you have any questions, I hope everyone was able to listen actively. If not, I will humbly request and strongly request to go back and watch the recording of today's class. Very, very important points, extremely important, and I'm not saying because I'm here. It really meant. And before that, I would like to share, Mataji, Parikshit Prabhu had to have to leave because he had some urgent service in the temple. So I'm trying to coordinate here. So devotees, if you have any questions, anything you would like to clarify, you can unmute yourself. You can put your question on the chat, however you are comfortable.
So I'm sorry, Prabhu, I had to go few minutes past
Okay.
scheduled time. I should have finished, but
No problem,
my
Mataji.
class went longer.
Yeah, but I really love the points, especially how when we go to temple or any sangha, it should be for transformation, absorption, gratitude, not for gossiping like crows, and crow consciousness versus swan consciousness and all that. And I'm seeing a lot of love on the chat, so I'm sure devotees love this class, and I'm going to watch it again, Mataji. Thank you so much, and I will
Thank you, Prabhu.
request. And honestly, Mataji, I'm so overwhelmed. This is the class everybody in ISKCON should hear it. To be honest.
So it is not that, I could present this talk because I have perfected. I'm also I go through a lot of challenges myself. So this talk was entirely based on our experiences. I mean, I discussed last evening with my husband at great length. And when I was preparing material, I was like, should I keep it very superficial and due to time limit? And he was like, no, just it may take few more minutes, but you should definitely go through all experiences everybody has. And so it is helpful for everyone. So
Extremely practical class, extremely practical for all of us. Thank you so much, Mataji, again. So because Mataji has to leave, I will humbly request everyone to go back and hear the class again.
It was not that I have to leave. I was saying I was feeling sorry. I
Oh,
went
okay.
way past the time I should have
Okay. No
been
problem.
speaking, and I saw there was one hand by one Prabhu, like he was raising hand. Maybe he had a question or comment.
Okay,
So
Hare
please.
Mataji. Please
Yeah, go
accept
ahead,
my
Prabhu.
obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Thank you for the nice class, Mataji. A lot of reminders. Just because even I am staying in the temple. many time it happens that I am not in the temple, like mentally. So the point that you brought up, like just staying in the temple or standing in front of the deity, it doesn't mean that you are Krishna conscious. The consciousness has to be like really transformed, and hearing and reading will help a lot. And then you mentioned the six principles of Sharanagati and six principles of you said infrastructure. That was really very nice. Yeah. So thank you very much. Lot of reminders from Nectar of Instruction and all the different places, and so much to learn from Vidura's life. That was very nice. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
And we will read more in great details in the subsequent chapters. So
Thank you, Damodar Prabhu. Anyone else would like to express anything or ask any question from today's beautiful topic? Okay, Shin Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to the Prabhupada. Thank you so much for this beautiful class. Yeah, so many wonderful points, as already mentioned. Yeah, I really like how you brought up how Vidura wasn't just leaving or just in frustration or out to vacation, that he was out to use that situation to come closer to Krishna. And it's such a wonderful message that whenever we're in hardships, we can use those to bring ourselves closer to Krishna, which is something I definitely needed to hear this morning. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shin Prabhu. Yeah, and also how you concluded with the reminder that we should be mindful of just not the quantity but the quality and intention of the sadhu sangha. How we are associating. That was beautiful, Mataji, to put the icing on the cake. And yeah, we all have Krishna at home. We try to serve, but is he really comfortable, or he's in discomfort because of our egos, our controlling natures, or whatnot? That is a very good point to realize ourselves. Is he really comfortable or not? We might have the best of the beautiful temples at home, nice house, but wow, amazing. Yeah. Anyone else? And yeah, I mean, we see mostly this is the practical issue. People go to temples and for festivals and all that, but more or less it becomes a more kind of social gathering. People are not absorbed, they are not listening to the, or are getting absorbed, in the services. It's more becomes any practical recommendation, Mataji, if you have some time to I know you mentioned a lot of points, but something that might have worked in your scenario or in your congregation that I need to hear that. It's a big challenge.
Yes, Prabhu. So I actually here and there these two verses were more inquiries, kind of inquiries, and looking for sadhu sangha. But being in a sadhu sangha, how to be more efficient or mindful or aware is the question. Your question is how to be more aware, how to be on watch always, how to guard. We don't fall into materialistic time, materialistic consciousness oriented time versus what we went there for. And I can only think of, there have been times I have not really been in remembrance. And just because of the kind of services I was doing, welcoming guests or distributing books, or even as offering pujari services on the altar, not really interacting. So I was more focused on even pujaris on the altar may, in materialistic consciousness, they may think that I am so close to Arch Vigraha. Let me just offer some prayers for my whoever loved one or something. Krishna, please cause some transformation in their hearts. Maybe this works better than standing down there in the crowd because I am giving a very personal service right now. And right then and there, sometimes Krishna may give you experience of don't come between me and your loved one. Let me do my way. Let me do. And Krishna has his ways, mysterious ways. So sometimes the message, the awakening may come from within the heart. Sometimes there may be a mild chastisement or a strong chastisement coming from other devotees, which may not be welcome also sometimes. And that, I believe, for practicing devotees, that is the one which is the toughest to manage, is chastisement, unasked chastisement coming from other devotees, and how to remember to take it as a opportunity for purification rather than feeling hurt or offended, and in many ways the service may be impacted because of that, and devotees may forget who is the center here. So let us say there are terminologies like perpetrator and victim. So the devotee who is experiencing offense, let's say if they are victims, and perpetrator is the devotee who is passing judgment and directions and chastisement. So here the victim may really feel victimized due to their whatever reasons. They may be helpless to address it suitably, and later on, they go through a lot of negative emotions which impacts the sufferings. But what helps is the more they read and hear about how to balance or manage these emotions, really practically applying, we are not the body. So let's stop identifying at the bodily level all this criticism which comes. And don't sweat the small stuff. Just apply, letting go. Letting go is not necessarily letting go of relationships and big things. Letting go happens every single moment in our life. When things seem unfavorable, we may be having a lot of expectations. And when those expectations are not met, for example, I went with a very pure consciousness to temple. I wanted to serve in certain ways, but some unfavorable interactions happen. So whole mood or consciousness is spoiled. So kind of like we have this feeling my expectations were not met. And we are totally we are in ignorance of who is the source of everything, who is running the show. Krishna might have planted that person to give us this experience, to cut short our karmic reactions, otherwise, which could have spanned for a lot of situations or many years or many lives. That small interaction could be taking away our sinful reaction if we stay in Krishna consciousness, if we practice tolerance, and if we forgive and accept and just take the correction. So there are so many different ways, a devotee can practice tolerance and humility. It's not just a literary definition of tolerance and humility. It is sometimes let them theory, let go, let people go away with what they are inflicting. They have come as agents of Krishna to give us freedom from sinful reaction. And so this application is big one for me. And I constantly keep reminding my husband also about it, because I have seen, it seems men are pretty, they may have, difficulty with letting go, but sometimes with some small nudge or remembrance, they can do very well with it. So I'm sure everybody here understands and can relate to what I'm talking about. We should not try to avoid the experiences. Experiences are our opportunities to evolve. And so if Vidur can use this, misunderstanding to leave the family for higher spiritual evolution, we can learn from it, and we can find ways day to day. So, Prabhu, if you would like to comment or share on that, you are welcome. And
no, Mate, thank you so much. Wonderfully explained. Yeah, I was just trying to relate. Vidur leaving that family or that house could also mean some association which is not helpful for us, leaving that association and moving to the higher association like Vidur Maharaj is doing here. So that is beautiful point that you concluded with. And I
That is
don't.
one, yeah, that is one way to look at. But earlier I spent some time mentioning this move. His moving is not really like moving away or moving. It's like moving to Krishna, making Krishna conscious choices. And that's why I mentioned principles of Sharanagati. I can clearly see that on the fly to become very careful and aware how to make choices, it can help us tremendously. Not that we need to get back to someone because they mistreated or humiliated, you know. Because in the same congregation, you could be again working together within 2 days on a festival abhishek or something right next to each other. So there are many opportunities presented.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. I don't see any more hands or any comments. So once again, thank you so much, Mataji, for this wonderful class today, and we look forward to see you soon again. Thank you, all the devotees, and we'll see you, all of you, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with the next verse. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyo kripa sindhubhyo eva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.